The Real Talk Corner. We back. We in the building. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fighting my way through the darkness where the wicked don't rest. Conscious aware, truth I dare, shield tied to my chest. My tenacity can put these motherfuckers to the test. High priestess of fire, alchemistic desire. I say manifest and shit, even when I am tired. You can call me amazing, by the bricks I be laying, but you'll never call me lazy, cause my vibes are devastating. In the league of my own, spitting real talk energy. I know a little something about a thing called synergy. This is old radio, throw a sun and masses awaken me. Listen up, cause we about to set your mind, body, and soul free. Welcome back to the Real Talk Corner podcast, where we dive deep into spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical truths that shape our lives and our world. I'm your host, Ariana Gutierrez, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Terry Coleman, a life coach. In today's episode, we'll discuss the complex landscape of consent in relationships, the biased way consent is often pushed solely on men, whether dating or in marriage, and explore women's responsibility in sexual and intimate consent. Join us as we unravel these important issues and strive for a more balanced understanding of what consent really means. Let's get started. All right, let's get into it. Another episode on the Real Talk Corner. I am your host, Ariana Gutierrez, the Quantum Healer. Today, I have a special guest with me, Terry Coleman. He's actually been on my show before. So those of you who remember him, you'll remember him. Those of you who don't, let them know just a little bit about what you do and, who you are.
Thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Terry Coleman. Live in Concord, North Carolina. I do credit repair as well as life coaching. I was just recently certified as a life coach. I just try to do my best to help people in any type of way I can, whether it be financially, emotionally. There's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of stuff that has happened since I was last on your show. Quick backstory. I lost my oldest son in October of 21. And then I lost my mother in March of 22. So, with that proximity, I had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of digging, and needless to say, I lost myself at one point, so I've definitely made a full 360, a turnaround. I'm back on a good place. I'm back in a good place. So, from that point, I just felt like, if I could get through this, I have a lot of experience with pain and things like that. So I should use this energy to try to help others in similar situations. We're all unique. We all go through different things, but pain is pain. And unfortunately, hurt people. So I want to be one that actually tries to help heal people rather than inflicting the pain that has been inflicted on me.
Right. I think that's awesome what you just said, because it definitely is a choice, right? You can choose to be the one who reacts and projects onto others that hurt and pain, or you could be the one who is processing, but through the processing, you extend the help to others because you know how it feels in your life. So definitely you have the two roads of and grief is never easy. And there's no time limit. There's no, there's just no 30 days and I'm going to be good, or 5 years and I'm going to be good. That's one of the biggest things that we go through, is just kind of remembering that it's a constant process, because you have to, this is what I say to everyone, you have to recalibrate what life looks like without those people that you did not expect to leave, right? Every day that you are wow, this person's not here, and you have to redevelop what that looks like, and that's not an easy process. So
Not at all.
Commend you for just choosing what, regardless to what's going on, I'm going to choose to still be a better person because it definitely is a choice. And some people, woo,
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm,
they choose the latter. So, so thank you. Thank you for coming back because I love the last one we did. Today we're going to be talking about consent because I've seen a consent come about, and I know it's always been a thing. This is not something new. Consent,
right.
between relationships is not something new, but it definitely is still being talked about. And it's kind of like I don't understand why we still have to find consent in the way that people are doing. And I have a couple TikToks I'm going to play for us so we could discuss those also.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you hear that far as consent, especially relationship consent, right? Because there's different stages. There's also young, where you have to address like young people a little bit different because, of course, they're learning, they're trying to figure it out. And then
Mhm.
there's also marriage and people in relationships that are in committed relationships that are still having this dialogue of what consent is, which is
Mhm.
crazy.
And I mean, a lot of that I believe is just because just how society is.
Mhm.
Everybody is entitled to have their own perception of things. The messed up part about it is it seems as if everybody feels that their way is the only way to go about it.
Right,
Not understanding that because we're individuals, we have our own mindsets, our own thought processes, that we can align with something on a thought or a conception, but go about it different ways. And it's like we're so selfish, we're not trying to consider other ways, other people ways of getting to that conclusion. And it's at a point where it's like it doesn't even matter that we came to the same conclusion. It's just that you went about it a different way than I went about it. So I don't know if I can mess with you. I don't know if I can rock with you. And like
right,
I'm almost 50. So it's like it was never like that. As long as we were able to come to the same conclusion, how we
right,
got there never really mattered.
right,
And I think a lot of that is just because of the entitlement society that we live in nowadays.
right,
It's like everybody feels that their way is the only way, is the right way, not understanding that, well, if you feel that way about your way, why wouldn't I feel my way about my way? And
right,
you can say something to me about me differing with you, but I'm not able to retort and say something to you. And it just comes back to the entitlement that it seems that everybody feels they deserve,
right.
which I can't grasp it myself.
Right, right. There's definitely, I feel like, a double standard when we talk about it because I know it's more kind of embedded on the males, like it's their fault or they're the ones that are taking things too far, or, you know, like we just put it on them, like they got to know everything. But I think also women have to be taught
Right.
to, because I think a big part of it is just not being able to read those body language and how when someone's uncomfortable, like feeling that and understanding what is that if someone's uncomfortable with you, just because they're maybe not saying nothing. But I think that goes both ways because women essay men all the time,
Right.
grab them, do all kind of stuff, and because men are perceived in a certain way, men kind of shrug it off and kind of go about their business. But we
Right.
definitely know that it's a thing. We definitely know women do it. But again, we still have this double standard, like it's just, oh, just men are the ones that are the predators.
Mhm. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that really hasn't changed with the entitlement era that we live in. It's still basically most of the pressure is applied to the men because we're men and we're strong and we're this and we're that. Not taking in the fact that we have feelings, we have emotions. And it's unhealthy to hide those emotions and those feelings. You know what I mean? Especially when you feel that you're being taken advantage of in some type of way.
Right,
Like I mean, back in the day, they used to have TV shows and stuff, and like they would literally laugh if the man was like, "Oh my gosh, she made a pass at me, and I wasn't really feeling it, and I wanted to do this." Like you get clowned for that,
right,
and to this day, it's still like that. So,
right,
I mean, what I say is that as men, we have to just step out and go off of our emotions. What they call it now, sassy. A man being sassy if he expresses some type of emotion. Well, then I'll be sassy, but
Right.
I'm not gonna let something internally that I can control and maneuver with
Mhm.
break me down because of somebody's perception of me. You know, if you
Right.
don't rock with me, you don't rock with me, but you're gonna hear how I feel. You know,
Right.
and the big thing of that too is being able to articulate it. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of people aren't able to actually articulate their feelings into words, which
Right.
becomes a barrier in itself.
Right.
And it's just like anything else. You need practice. You know, I mean, I true story. I really used to sit in the mirror and breathe out my emotions to myself. Like
Right.
you have to find a way to get it out, you know. And then the more and more I did that, you know, particular people around me, it became more comfortable for me to say things out loud and stuff like that. And because of that, again, it's helped me a lot dealing with my mother and my son's situation.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not afraid to verbally express that, you know what, I'm having a crappy day today. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's no particular person's fault. It's just one of those days. You know what I mean? Rather than going into work with a chip on my shoulder and take a chance of getting fired because somebody say something, I react, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
you just have to learn that it's okay to have these feelings and express these feelings, but you also have to learn how to articulate them and put them out there as well.
Oh, definitely. And I do feel that's probably one of the biggest problems on both ends is being able to. I know as far as some women, because even myself, there was a time where you get scared of trying to say it because of the aggressiveness on. And I don't know if men experience this too, if women, because I know some women can get pushy and aggressive and I still don't understand why at this point men are still being teased because they don't want to sleep with a woman. If they don't
Right.
want, it's
Mhm.
like, no, I don't like them passes, or I didn't like that she touched me that way.
Mhm.
I'm like, why would you clown your friend because he's not interested, because he doesn't want another notch on his belt? Like, so
Mhm.
what?
Mhm.
Respect it and move on. Like, I don't know why is this still a thing, but I know as far as women, we do sometimes, depending, especially where you're at. I know there was a lot of times of trying to like say, I'm not interested, just like
Without
that, and
saying
then
it.
being
Yeah.
like, well, fuck you, bitch. And it's like, well, damn,
Right. Right. Right.
what did I say? All I
Mhm.
said was, I'm not interested.
Yeah. and, and that's always been crazy. And again, you know, like being from like a bigger city, the inner city, I'm from New York, and you know, like that's how you would get most chicks attention. Like
Right,
you really couldn't be nice and use chivalry and stuff like that. Like they be, "Hey, man, if you don't get out my face with your you know what I mean?" So
right,
it's like, you
right.
know, you have to be aggressive, but like you said earlier, like as people we have to learn how to read the room. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like everybody's not like that. And just because a person is in a particular situation doesn't mean that those are the reactions that are going to come out. You know,
Right.
again, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're only stereotypes. They're not, man, it's not everybody. So
Right.
again, like you said, you just have to learn how to read the room. And I believe a lot of people aren't able to do that because they're too busy talking.
Oh yeah.
They're
I
just
have said this
talking.
before, and I was like, when I was younger, I was like that. I was like constantly being the one talking, right? Because it just was, my mind is always going. But as I've learned, especially on my spiritual path, I've learned to be more observant and more just like let the other person talk. And it's crazy when you actually flip it, because you're like, oh shit, there's a lot that I just realized in this conversation by letting this person continue to talk,
Mhm.
and you're just like, oh shit, it's so different to just not be constantly yapping in the conversation, but to actually sit back and listen, process,
Exactly.
then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I even like this person.
But we hope that's not the case. But
But more times out of 10, you're gonna find like, if you, and I tell women this all the time, like, stop telling men, even men, like, when you first start talking, if you're like the question of what do you want in a woman or what do you want in a man, like, don't answer that. Don't answer
right,
that, because you're
right,
giving them all the cues of how to pretend to be who
yeah,
you want them to be.
exactly.
say like bland stuff, like, honest, truthful.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't realize that it really is that simple. Like we overcomplicate things. Like
Hmm.
it really is that simple. Like the old adage, do unto others how you want done unto you. Like
Right.
plain and simple. And that's how I've raised my kids. Like I treat people how I want to be treated, and then
Right.
I treat people how they treat me. So if after a while you think I'm treating you a particular way, then you should check yourself about how you're treating me, because I'm going to express it to you a couple of times before I go to, okay, so this is how we got to move now. I'm
Right.
going to, what, you kind of moving a little weird, like what's going on and this and that. But again,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do it hundreds of times,
Yeah.
couple, 2, 3 times. And then it's like, okay, well, again, of course, depending on the relationship, the situation,
True.
Okay,
True.
you want to, this is how you want to act. Okay, I'll show you. This is how you act. And
Right.
then other situations, just cut the person off completely. Like
Yeah.
I've told you, yo, I don't like how you moving. Obviously, you don't care about how I feel, so I'm not going to care about how you feel, and just cut them off.
Yeah.
One thing my mother has always taught me is that, like, when people do dirt to you, don't worry about getting them back, because they're gonna need you way before you need them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah. There's
use
no
it as an
point.
experience, and just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. There's absolutely no point in revenge. Like,
Right.
even like people think revenge is going to feel good, and it might feel good for 2 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to, you're going to have some type of guilt, underlying guilt in that psyche, in that subconscious. You're going to hold that. And not only that, I believe in karma. So now you just added karma to your plate because you've acted out and you needed to get this person back, instead of allowing, whether you believe in God or the universe and how
So, mhm.
that works, instead of letting that play out as it's supposed to play out, you
You want
decide
to take
to take things
control.
in your hands, right?
You know,
And say, and again, I've been guilty of revenge in my younger years.
mm-hmm.
But again, it's not something I would promote to say do it, because you're better off just walking away. You're
Yeah.
better off just walking away. Even like the fighting with someone, or going back and forth to prove your point. It's like, for what? You're
Right.
obviously talking to someone that you guys can't come to any type of terms, or even like agree to disagree, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I don't know if it's an age thing, because I'm 44. I don't know if it's an age thing or just over time you learn. But at some point you're just like, it's not worth my time or attention, you
Or
know?
even more energy, just the energy, like,
Right.
and it may be a thing, an age thing. Like I said, I'm almost 50. I'm 47,
Mm.
and like there's a lot of things that I just physically don't have the energy to deal with, that I used to run with back in the day. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
just now, it's just like I physically don't have the energy to deal with it. You want to have this perception. Okay, you right. You got it. I done gave you A, B, C, X, Y, Z examples on why that's not the case, but you obviously have your mind set on it. So you know what? You're right. You got it.
Right.
I'm gonna go take a nap. you know,
It's
like
crazy because I saw something, I read, where it was like, everyone in your life, no matter how close you think you are with them, they have a version of you that exists. And the true self will, no one will ever know that one, because we never truly show everything about ourselves to everyone.
right,
We are different versions of ourselves with everyone. On top of that, the person has their own perception of who we are. So, kind of knowing that, it's like, what's the point to try to prove who you are or what you're about when they already created the person they think you are?
right.
It's kind of like, it's pointless. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's a
oh,
catch 22.
it's just like, what am I doing this for? All right. I know I'm kind of straying off topic, so I want to bring it back. Um, I want to talk about this one right here, especially like talking to young boys, and kind of letting them know and teach them. I know I have two grandsons, and they're getting, they're 11 now, which is crazy how they're just growing. And I know that just where they're at, we're looking at this is a conversation that's needed to have. This is a conversation that we have to start getting into. So for the ones that have boys and looking at how to talk to your boys, to make sure that they understand, especially today, because I think just the way the world is, they really have to be careful
Yeah.
what they do, how they do it, how they move. But let's watch this and then we'll discuss.
Consent. You're with a young lady.
Let me know. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
Consent. You're with a young lady. She has to consent to every act. So if you were in the car with her and something went down in the car, that does not mean that something has to go down at the apartment.
You know, number one on the list is we need to teach young men about consent, because I think there are times when young men will be in a situation where they do something that they think is ambiguous, but legally it's classified as rape. And you know, it all comes down to consent and knowing what that is.
What does it mean when she says no?
Just step away from her.
It means no.
Just
It's
means
very
no.
simple. No means no.
No means no.
The concept of consent and letting your boys know when they can and when they cannot pursue a sexual encounter is very, very important in this time that we're living in.
And when it comes to sex, tell him technical consent isn't the gold standard. It is just the basic, complete, most bare foundation, and anything less than a woman being enthusiastic about something sexual that is about to happen is a sign that he must stop and talk to her.
All right. So what do you think about that? What's your thoughts about?
Again, I agree with the general statement overall. You know, consent is very important, and no means no. You know, but it goes both ways. You know, like the female has to also know, okay, what do I say? How do I say it? You know, when
Right.
it's such a hard topic to talk about. You know, I think that's why it's really not talked about too much, because again, perception is such a crazy thing. And like you said, just because something went down in the car don't mean it has to go down in the apartment.
Right.
But you're thinking the whole time, okay, we doing this in the car. Man,
Right.
once we get upstairs, everything is everything. We gonna boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And if she's not able to be like, well, you know, once we get upstairs, we just gonna watch a movie. We, you know, whatever the case may be. You know, so again, it's like everything is pushed on the male, and they're definitely right. We do have to have this knowledge and this understanding, but it's not just on us as well. You know, everything goes both ways, I believe. You know, like I tell my kids all the time, there's two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
So to put more responsibility on one party than the other party is unfair, but it's definitely the concept of it is definitely a valid point. You know, and we do have to, as men, you know, learn those signs. Like I was saying earlier, you know, you have to learn how to read the room, you know.
Right. Right. I do agree, because women, I feel it is that like assumption that men are supposed to know when the cutoff is, or that men are somehow going to mind read, mind readers, right? And even if sometimes some people are like, well, I was uncomfortable, not necessarily can you always tell, because some people have a good way of having a mask on,
Right.
where it's still friendly, it's still cool, it's still, you know, the vibe is not off, because not everyone knows that yet, especially when you're younger. You're
Right.
still trying to understand what vibes are and all of those things. So someone could be really good at masking that, and then you know you're thinking, okay, well, this is about to go to the next step, and it doesn't. But I do agree where it's got to be both. It can't just be like, oh, on the guys, and then the girls just, well, I never said anything and I just assumed. And it's just like, well, then you didn't state it. You weren't clear to say no, you know, I'm not doing this, or this is what I don't want, or just because we got hot and heavy in the car, like,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I would say on that, I would tell a woman, don't even go to the apartment. Go home.
Right.
Because if you know that that's not what you want next, you don't want to be there next, and you guys are not on that level where he knows your cues, go home.
Right.
What's the
Right.
point of even going to the apartment at this point?
Exactly, because as a guy, like I said, we're thinking, oh man, we rocking in the car, we about to
Mhm.
go upstairs and and do the thing, you know what I mean? But if it's not said that we're not, then there's no reason for me to believe that it's not, you know.
Exactly.
So like I said,
Yeah.
it's such a touchy topic,
Right.
because there's just so many different perceptions of it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, like it all comes down to it. Like he told the little kid, no means no. It's really that simple.
Simple.
No means no. If she says no,
Mhm.
all right, you got it, and go about your business. Now, again, easier said than done. We've all been in
Yep.
situations, you know what I mean? So it's a lot easier said than done. But it can be done. It has to be done,
Right. Right.
and again, it goes back to us as men being comfortable with talking and articulating our feelings and our
Right.
emotions. You know what I mean? Because again, like you said, I really do believe it's an age experience thing.
Mhm.
Because I'll be like, you know what, we shouldn't even did nothing in the car. Like, why you
Right.
wasting my time? You know what I mean? Like, I could have been on my way home and handled myself. You know what I'm saying? Like anything. You know what I
Right.
mean? But you sitting here playing these games, like
Right.
20-year-old me wouldn't have said nothing like that, wouldn't have done
Right.
nothing like that. So
Right.
again, a lot of it is age and experience, but I didn't have anybody in my ear telling me, yo, when she be like, no, don't try to kiss her on the neck the extra time, or whisper in the ear. Like she said, no, just back
Right.
up and go. Like, nah, I don't have any rape charges or anything like that on me.
Right.
But I mean, I've been in hot, heavy situations, and it just go left. But I was fortunate. Like my stepfather taught me when I was like 13 years old. He told me that a female knows in the first 30 seconds of meeting you if she want to give you something. Your
Exactly.
job as a man is just not to fuck it up. And you can fuck it up with one word. Just one thing can throw the whole mood off to a female.
Yep.
So I was able to learn to read the room, so to speak, at an early age to be like, damn, did I say something that? She just kissed me on the cheek. Now I'm still good. You know what I mean? So, and then chicks that don't, it's like, damn, what the fuck? What did I say?
Right.
All right, you got it, man. But it's hard to do, But again, I think it all comes down to, as men, is being able to articulate your feelings and your emotions, and not being afraid or ashamed to do so.
Right, right. There's definitely cues from a woman. Women that like you are touchy feely. They're
Mhm.
going to touch your arm. They're gonna make that open, like, okay, I'm open for you in my personal space.
Right,
Where a woman who doesn't want you to touch them is not going to ever touch you.
right, right.
They're not going to do those things. Like
Yeah.
even that gesture of a kiss, letting you know, okay, I'm open
Mhm.
to a kiss, where a woman who's not, she's not even going to allow eye contact long enough.
Right, for you to even think it's time to move in for the kiss.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, good night, bye.
Don't you need your keys? I'll get to them. Don't worry about it. I
I'll
am
get
not
that
sitting
later.
here with you trying to ruffle through this bag to get them. I will get to them by the time I get to the door.
Right,
Bye.
right. And it is, I do feel some women do need to understand, because I know for me, it's never been an issue. If I wanted to do something, you knew we did it. That's it. If I didn't, I didn't, went about my business. Like, I do feel like you need to be direct in your approach. If that's what you're feeling, if that's what you want. And I do think a lot of people take advantage of that moment, not saying that you can't stop later and say, no, I don't want to. Maybe I thought I
Right.
did. But it's just like you need to make those decisions and be clear.
Mhm.
Like, this is the decision you're making, then make it go have fun. Not, I want to have fun, but don't want to have fun. And you all confused and what you
And
want.
back and
You got
back and
this person.
forth and all of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now everybody fucking confused on what we doing. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't think that's fair. And then just to be like, oh, you took advantage of me. No, you set it up like that too.
I took advantage of the situation. You was back and forth, so I helped make you make a decision.
Right.
Which is not the right thing to do, but that's what happens more
Yeah.
times than not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I want to say like one of the things I feel too with especially kids, teens coming up, their hormones and stuff are intensified. And I think that the conversations have to be deeper with them because they are intensified. They're heightened to an extent like they don't even know what the hell is going on.
right.
And someone gets them hot and bothered. That's a hard switch to just be like,
Could you
all right,
turn it off?
off
Yeah.
and I'm good, where I was having this conversation because again, I've never raised boys. So being around my grandsons has been so enlightening about what boys got to go through. But just even I had this psych class I went through from human sexual development and understanding like, what the boys go through. I know what girls go through, puberty, but boys have their own thing that they go through and
It's
their own embarrassments of, going through with their own penis and it just being hard and crazy and all this other stuff.
for no reason. For no reason. Like absolutely no reason.
Right,
I'm literally doing a math problem, and then it's like,
right.
oh my gosh. And of course, that's when the teacher call you to go up to the board and put and do the answer on the board. You just came from gym,
Right,
so you got the gray sweatpants on, and it's like, man, I ain't going up in front. Just give me that F for this, yo.
right.
18, just put it up there. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Having
it's
to
it's
even
rough.
explain that, it's like, oh shit, like this is a whole different conversation. So I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, they're going through all of this that they don't even know how to calm
Right,
themselves down yet. And I
right.
don't care, teens, you're still teens, you're still figuring it out, you
Yeah.
still don't
I don't care
don't have
how smart you
control.
are or intelligent you are. I don't care about none of that.
But I feel like it definitely is a conversation for both girls and boys, young men, young women, to understand that that is a lot of pressure just on them. Don't put yourself in those situations with them because again, they're going through a lot and they don't know how to maneuver their own bodies. They don't know how to turn it off, turn it on. It's not as easy as people think. There's a lot going on, and I think that's another piece of it where people are. It's this misconception, like you
Right.
know and then, of course, we think we're adults in our 20s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We think we know. We think we got it under wraps. But I told this to my daughter too, because she struggled just thinking she was supposed to have everything and know everything and have her life all together in her 20s. And it was just like, you're in your 20s. You think you're supposed to have it all mapped out? You think you're supposed
Right,
to be all knowledgeable in your 20s? I was like, the 20s is actually still figuring out who you are. You ain't
right.
gonna know that until you get to your 30s because you got to experience some stuff.
Yeah, you got to go through
You have
stuff.
no clue until you go through it. The
Yeah.
experience is everything, right? So I'm like, no, your 20s, you're still kids.
Mhm. And
Um,
and it's crazy because I mean, again, like not even being that age, but you can see why it is. Like that's all they've ever known. You know what I mean?
right, right,
So it's you can't really. I don't know if judge is the right word, but you can't really judge them by thinking they know everything because I mean they know what they know, and that's all they know.
right.
They're only 20, 21, 22 years old. They have no idea what it's like to be 30, 30. I used to tell my kids all the time, like, every boy wants to grow up and be a professional athlete and all of that stuff. And like looking back now, it's like I don't even remember thinking about what I would do after my career would be over. Say I did
Right.
become a professional athlete. I never took the time to think of what I would do after my career would end it. So that's why I try to always, especially when I talk to young people, like, yeah, you have a plan to do whatever. Just remember, there's always another part after that. There's
Yeah.
always something else after that.
Yeah.
And you got to put yourself in a position to take advantage of that time too. I know it may seem like an eternity for you now, but it creeps up really fast.
Oh
It
my
gets hit really fast. Yeah.
life is crazy like that. You get there and then like now when I'm talking to people, I'm like, once you get to like your 40s, 50s, you realize that most likely you've lived half of your life already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you're like, damn,
It's the
half of my
second.
life.
It's the second half of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going into and it's like, yeah, we're more wiser, but I don't think you have to make so many mistakes in life
Mhm.
to get it. I think I don't know if it was Buddha, but it was someone's quote that was just like, learn from other people's experiences and their wisdom because there's
Mhm.
not enough time in one life to learn it all.
Right.
So when people give you great advice, fucking take it.
Take it. Take it.
Take it and run. Like you do not need to experience everything, every hardship, every, crazy thing that happens. Get
Gratification,
it.
like both ways. Every gratification like this, sometimes less is more.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. I think I've said this before, like every desire does not need to be acted upon. Every
Right.
fantasy does not need to come true.
Right.
Um some things are there, yeah, it might pop up, it might be there, but it doesn't mean it has to become something that you go for because
Right.
again, a lot of things are unhealthy for us. A lot of things become destructive for us.
Mhm.
And then we don't even realize that, but that's a whole nother podcast. I'm going to show this one because I want to talk about this. I thought this was pretty cool just listening to the what she says. But let me play it.
So, have y'all seen this before? Oh, it looks like an older poster, but this is the first time I was seeing it. So, y'all look at this for me real quick, right? It says Jake was drunk, Josie was drunk. Jake and Josie hooked up. Josie could not consent. The next day, Jake was charged. A woman who was intoxicated cannot give her legal consent. Okay? Y'all see the poster, right? I have some questions for legal.
That's basically the question. Looking at this poster, Jake was drunk, Josie was drunk, and then they hooked up. Josie could not consent. Then he gets charged. Now, what are your feelings on that? I got my feelings, but what are your feelings on that?
I mean, it's BS. Okay, she can't consent, but then doesn't that mean he can't consent as well?
That part,
So, I mean, isn't that like double whammy? Like they
right?
kind of negate each other. You
Right.
know what I mean? And again, this goes back to like what we were saying earlier. Like everything is placed on the guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we we have feelings, we have emotions, and we have to be able to express them. I mean, I don't know really too much more to
Right.
say to these questions because like it's always going to come back to like again, not that it's all our fault, but we have to take our
Right.
fault in it.
Right.
So by doing that, we have to learn how to express these things. You know what I mean? But
Right.
yeah, to charge him with rape when both of them was drunk. Now, if she was drunk and he wasn't, totally different conversation.
Right. That part.
Completely different conversation. But if they're both drunk, then how can you take legally? How can you take either one of their words? You
That part.
know. So I mean, yeah, that's yeah, that's crazy.
Right. I thought that was weird too, and I didn't think that that was the actual thing. Like I know that there has been cases, and you kind of hear stories about this,
Mhm.
and then the guy getting charged or not getting charged, and some of the times he'll be like, "Well, I thought she was into it," and the girl's like, "Well, no, I wasn't." So there's always that back and forth. But I feel like in a case where two people are intoxicated, both of them are intoxicated, there's no way he can be charged. Like, there's no way you can consciously, legally look at this and be like, you were both drunk, you both hooked up. Now in the morning, you're probably both like, what the hell happened?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
now he gets charged. I think that's horrible. And for those of you listening and watching this, I want you to understand if you have sons or you have daughters, when you get charged with rape, that's not something small
Right.
on your name. There's guys, even you guys see like Nicki Minaj's dude who forever will be known as someone who has did
Mhm.
that and had that, and it was something that happened when he was a kid, right? No one knows the whole story to that, but he will forever be looked at as that type of guy, right?
Yep.
You don't come back from that. There's no way to really come around that. You will forever be stained.
Even if you're legally cleared, it's
Right.
still that stigma on you.
Yep. And you'll
Yep.
always have it. And that's such the horrible thing to walk around and be in the system or have your mug shot and all of these things
Right.
that the just in the embarrassment and all of these things that you have to go through. And this is why I'm an advocate not more for men, but I am an advocate on the men's side because I feel like they do get kind of dumped on in a lot of these situations. And it's not fair. It really is not fair. This I tell men, don't get married unless you truly, truly want to. I would say that was this is what I say to men, like take your time and don't rush in, because they're actually the ones that lose so much, their home, their money, paying alimony, child support,
Credit.
credit, and all of that, and still have to figure out where you're going to live, what you're going to do, you know. And I had just found out, even I didn't even know, because I've never been married before, but I just found out that, like, if you're separated, because a lot of states you have to be separated a year before you even can get divorced.
I'm currently in that situation now. Me and my wife separated in October, and we can't file until this coming October.
No matter if both of y'all are like, look,
this is over. This is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
No reconciliation. No, yeah, well, still got to wait a year.
Right.
You know?
And then in that year, right,
I'm still responsible for the medical insurance and the car insurance and all of that stuff. Yep.
And if in the year that you're separated, should she find somebody else, and if she was to have a kid legally, you'd be responsible.
Wow.
Depending on what state you're in, right?
Wow.
And I just found that out, and I was like, oh shit, that's horrible.
Right.
Like, how can you put this, you decide to get a boyfriend or whatever, you go, and the man, if he got another girl, she's not responsible for that kid. He goes,
yeah.
But he's responsible for if she gives birth to a kid. I was like, it's not his? What the hell? And I was like, damn, this shit is crazy. So no, I am more like, hey, you guys need to listen up, be more careful of what you're doing out here, because you can lose so much more than what the woman is losing. So, you know, teach your boys, I would say teach your boys a lot of this, make sure that they understand, because out here, unfortunately, I don't think women are being taught correctly how to maneuver out there either. I don't think it's just all on the guys. And I definitely don't think if both of y'all are intoxicated, the dude needs to go to jail for that.
Right.
If anything, both y'all need to slap, like, hey, I'm slapping both of y'all with misconduct. Y'all need to get it together and be more responsible.
Right.
We could get it to the whole essayed and drugged and all of that. That's a whole different conversation. But we're just talking about two people, both intoxicated, hook up, and boom, the result for the next day.
Charged with rape.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a whole different thing, right? I want to go into marriage, though, because that was the next one of marriage, the consent in a marriage, which is crazy to me. And a lot of people are not probably going to like what I have to say about it, because I have an opinion on once you say I do.
Ben, can we talk about consent for a minute? Because I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. I'm wearing my angry turkey shirt today because I'm a little angry. Let's all remember, you never have the right to touch her in a sexual way that she's not comfortable with. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. And frankly, I'm embarrassed and ashamed at the amount of people who say their boyfriend or husband still doesn't understand this. Consent doesn't stop once you guys become official. And it certainly doesn't stop when you get married either. Being married absolutely does not mean that her body is yours to touch however you want. And it especially doesn't mean that she has to have sex with you whenever you want. Consent never stops. Even if you're married, if you're pressuring her to have sex with you and she doesn't want to, but she eventually feels guilty enough and just does it anyways, that's sexual abuse. We should never, ever want the most important woman in our life to do something, especially sexually, that she doesn't actually want to do. She's not your servant. She's not there for you to get off whenever you want. Her body isn't to be used for your pleasure just because you said so. You should be ashamed of yourself if you have such a small view of her, because she's valuable, as in equally valuable as you are. You wouldn't like someone to do something sexually to you that you weren't comfortable with. You always need her permission to touch her. That's what respect and love look like. Now, am I saying you always have to ask your partner every time you touch them? No, of course not. Emily is fine with me touching her and even kissing her and even trying to get some, because she trusts me. She knows I respect the no. Respecting the no means that if she's not in the mood, she doesn't even have to say anything. She doesn't have to slap my hand away or tell me to stop. She can just give me subtle body cues that she's not in the mood for this going any further. And then what do? That's right, I pout. I make her feel guilty because, well, I have sexual needs. So I make it a bigger deal than what it needs to be. I sulk. I give her the silent treatment. I make her life harder till she finally gives in and has sex with me. No, that's not respecting the no. I mean, you can practice that strategy. I'm sure a lot of guys do. But let me tell you where that leads. Less sex, not more. but respecting her body and loving her enough to be okay with her saying, no, thank you. I don't want to have sex with you right now. One, that's bare minimum of what common decency and consideration and respect look like. Two, that reinforces an environment where she feels valued and safe and emotionally prioritized. And that, my friends, drastically increases your odds that she will take this bid for sexual intimacy and remember that later or tomorrow when she feels more open for that. Remember, at the end of the day, she needs to know that you value her far more than you value sex. Does your partner know that? Do you have the balls to ask?
All right. Far as marriage and committed relationship, because this is a big one on men and women who are like, you just have to or have to be available. And so I'm going to kind of unpack that a little bit.
Again, you really get some touchy topics, boy. But again, I agree with the overall message. The consent doesn't stop. At the same time, like, again, me personally, like, I don't want pity sex. Like, don't just because I'm stressing you or I'm bugging you or this, that, and the third. Like, if you don't want me, then I don't want you type attitude. So I've never had a problem with that. But again, I'm not saying that my wife never told me I can't have none. But again, I agree with the overall sentiment of it. But man, it all depends. It depends on the relationship. It depends on how often things like that are talked about. Again, you gotta learn you gotta learn how to read the room. We can sit up here and try to justify why it should be okay for a guy to do a lot of things should be that aren't. So you just gotta understand that the bulk of it is going to fall on us. So at some point we have to be the bigger person, so to speak, and take that responsibility into our hand. But again, like I do agree with the guy that if you do certain things, if you move certain ways, you are going to increase those chances of her being more comfortable and doing more things and stuff like that. So again, perception is such a big thing, and we're together and things is get the same situation is happening, but we are looking at it completely differently. Right. So again, it comes back respect. You want people to respect you, so you have to respect other people. And again, like we've been saying this whole time, a lot of it does come with age and wisdom. I have no problem verbally expressing myself, saying what I feel needs to be said, and breaking things down into, I guess, to simplest forms, to layman's terms. But as men, we have to learn how to do that more and more, and then with all of this technology and stuff like that, it makes it even harder to peek through the stuff, the BS and all of that. So I mean, just people overall just have to honestly just make better decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of men talk about how majority men have a higher sex drive than women. Do you agree with that?
I would say yes, especially at a younger age. Mm-hmm. Just I guess it's the testosterone in us. Like I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly.
I agree. I
would definitely say that at the younger ages that men do. But then as you get older, I believe women kind of take that over, and their sexual drive is more intense as they age. Again, comfortability is a big part of it. Like she has to be comfortable. I don't care how hot and heavy she's feeling. If she's not feeling you, it's not happening.
Right.
So, but and again, a lot of that is because as men, we've been doing so much when we was young, we be worn out. A lot be worn out by the time they get to 35, 45 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but take some notes, save some energy.
Yo,
The reason why I say I agree with that, because yes, men are more their sex drive is higher than majority of women. Yeah, there are some women that match men on the sex drive. The reason why I asked that to see how you feel about that is because women, especially younger women coming into these relationships, especially a marriage and an established relationship, y'all moving together, you're playing the role. When you do those vows, right? You say, I'm going to be your person. I'm here through sickness and all of these things, right? Sex falls into that.
Into that category,
And
right?
I think people forget, like, that's a part of your duty to this person. You're saying that in this marriage, I'm going to be the one to satisfy your needs, right? I'm going to show up for you. And that doesn't mean only when I'm ready, only when I'm able, only when I feel like it. That's not how it is, because same thing if you're sick, I don't feel like dealing with someone who's sick. Shit, I still got to show up, right? Because you're sick and you can't handle shit. So why is sex looked at so differently than if we're in this marriage and you're unemployed, right? Why know that I have to hold it down, right? Because we're together, we're in this partnership, we're in this marriage. I automatically know that. That's not something you got to tell me. That's not. So I'm like, why is sex looked at so different in the marriage? Like women, you can just hold sex as ransom. You can just be like, nope, I don't feel like it. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a confusion because everything else is like, oh, it's understood. But sex is like, oh, no, it's not understood. No, that's a part of your duty too.
Yeah.
So like I said, a lot of people ain't gonna, especially women, ain't gonna like me.
Women take notes.
It is a part of your duty, and you should want to. It shouldn't, to me, I'm like, if it becomes a chore, there's something wrong in your relationship.
Right.
You no longer really want this person, because if it becomes a chore, you're no longer into it. Just like you said earlier, a woman knows if she's into you, she wants you. So that's something that you guys need to explore. I've seen this on both ends of. I've seen women too where the man withholds sex, and I say it bluntly to them, like, if your man's not having sex with you, somebody else is having sex with him. There's no way that you can go years without your man touching you. Your man is on you. Yeah. So somebody else is getting that. So you gotta realize that. And I constantly tell women, you should never, ever, ever, and men, you should probably think so too, should never want your man or woman to leave the house unsatisfied.
In any way, right?
In any way, because when they get out there, there's always going to be someone looking at them. You just because you got a ring on your finger doesn't make you ugly.
Right. Right.
So all of a sudden get married, and it's like you're invisible to the world.
Right.
No, you still go out there. There's still people who like you. There's still people who's going to be
nowadays. That tends to make people more attractive.
Right. So if you're not handling your business, which again, this is a part of your duty that you signed up for. You signed up to be that person. Sexually should be a part of everything else, of making sure your person is taken care of. If you're not doing it and they go out, the chances of somebody else sparking up that interest within them is going to be way higher. Definitely. Way higher, no matter what people say. And that's the hard truth about it. It's just like, if you're not going to do it, well,
somebody else will.
And these sexual needs, which a lot of, especially women, try to downplay sexual needs. And I'm calling y'all asses out as if it's not that important. And it is. Your sexual needs are very important and should be a priority. That's why I'm always telling people, have the conversations to make sure that you guys are on the same page sexually. Right? It's not going in like, oh shit, didn't know that's what you were going to want. No. Conversation like, wait, maybe you're a little too much for me. Have that conversation. How much sex do you want?
Right.
It's not hard to have these conversations and open it up. So again, I agree with his general message on respecting your spouse. But on the other side, I'm like, no, you signed up for this. You said that I'm going to be the
goes both ways.
Exactly. Right. You can't just shut that off now. I'm having a bad day, because you signed up to be this person. You need to understand that also. Yeah, I get it. If you're just so drained and so tired, your person would see that and would respect that. Right. But if you're just getting into the, oh, I have a headache and oh, this bullshit and oh,
Right,
then a
right,
lot of people do. It's like now you're taking advantage of the situation and you're forgetting to uphold what you said you would do in this relationship. So I feel people need to be accountable. You need to be accountable, and sex should be a part of that relationship, especially a healthy one, right?
healthy one, right,
Not
right.
saying y'all gonna do it all the time because there's kids and all of those
Right.
things.
It's life. There's life, you know.
But I'm like, there's quickies. Look, there's quickies. There's other things you can get in real quick to make sure. Boom. All
You,
right, you good? All right.
you all right? All right. You can take your ass to work now. Like,
And I say this to women too, because again, that flip side of where men start, they do have sexual issues. A lot of men, especially in their older age, start to have sexual issues. It's the same thing where the woman is like, oh, well, now he can't perform or he can't do this. And then there's like, well, that doesn't mean just go out and do whatever you want to. You
right,
need to have a conversation and then see what's going on. Again, men, even if you're having a problem, there's something else. Dude, there's other things you need to
just
just
yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
So I don't think women that's in a relationship should be claiming they've been raped by their husband or things like that. I think that that's really horrible to say in the fact again, because I do feel it's a duty. I do feel that you
Right.
are signing up to be that person. Do I think it should be aggressive and he should take it?
Definitely not. But
you
it
know
but it should be available to him whenever.
Right. But how many women do that though? How many women in marriages just, you know what I mean? Just
You just don't.
touch
Just don't.
their man or grab them a certain way or you know what I mean? Like I'm like, how many women do you guys do this shit? And it's never talked about. It's never
Right.
looked at. It's never, but as soon as a man does it, oh, that was aggressive or that's, I'm like, wait a minute, you're in a marriage. How is that? Somebody explain that shit to me.
We're gonna have to have a whole nother episode on just that. Right.
Real shit, because I'm trying to understand. I'm like, how is that? Why do you? Because I'm like, why do you need consent with your person that you're married to?
Right.
Like,
The consent was in the I do.
right? Like real shit. When you were like, man, I want to be with you forever. I want it to be us. Not to say it'll ever be forever, because life is life and people grow apart. But in that moment, you're saying, I want to be the person. I want to be that person for you. I want to be the one that you come to all the time. I don't want you to go date. I don't, you're saying that.
Right.
So if you're putting that into, it's like sex goes along with that. It's just kind of hand in hand. Like
It's kind of a main ingredient.
right. So not to say he owns your body, but
Right. He should have constant access to it.
but if it rolls over and you wake up, hey, it is what it is.
Shit, you better wake up. She mean.
It is what it is.
Man.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast, y'all. All right, we will wrap this one up. Again, thank you so much for coming on and us
My
chopping up
pleasure.
on consent.
Anytime. It's always a blast.
I will definitely have his links, his YouTube and stuff, where you guys can reach out to Terry if you guys want to work with him, as well as just kind of support his pages and things like that, you guys. So check the description, wherever you're watching or listening to, it'll be in the description. All right. As always, you guys, until next time, bye.
See you later, guys.